25 playoff games this year and a 2.76 goals against average in the playoffs. And one of the very best of the other end as well. Grant Fuhr, 18 playoff games and a 2.54 goals against mark for Fuhr. Fuhr against Hextall. The Flyers against the Oilers. Both teams after their third Stanley Cup in their club's history. John Davidson, you've been pacing, you've been prancing, you've been biting your nails. Are you ready?
Let's get it on. Sather starts Messier's line. He started that line every game in this series, and they're going to see a lot of Marsh and Samuelsson, who have the puck right now.
And here is Shell Samuelsson dumping it in. Brian Propp in to get it. Fuhr tried to poke it away. And here's Messier. He's being forechecked hard. Fuhr has to come out and play it and gets it to Kent Nielsen. Poor pass intercepted by Propp. Shot right on. Fuhr the save. Still loose in the Oilers zone. Now cleared and Messier gives it to Anderson. Anderson to Messier. Trying to move through. Marsh broke it up. Backhander by Nielsen. Right on and Hextall passes his first test of this game.
Let's make that two test, Dan. First of all, he stopped the puck. Second of all, Messier gave Hextall a cross-check when Hextall had the puck. And Hextall kept his cool on the play. The Oilers were having difficulty getting out of their own zone. And once they got out of their zone, they had a good scoring chance. And Messier is the only man in the penalty box. And that's a good call by Van Hellemond. Hextall now talking to Van Hellemond. Van Hellemond saying, relax. Now we'll see the play develop here. And Hextall's going to make a real good save. But watch Messier go into the goaltender. And his stick is going to be high. Hextall has the puck. And boom, he's going to give him a cross-check. More of a shove than anything else. And Van Hellemond on top of everything early. The Oilers are shorthanded.
Cross-checking to Messier at the 34-second mark. Both teams have had a good scoring chance already. Face-off coming up deep in the Philadelphia zone. Neither team have been very productive on the power play in this series. They're trying to break out of that tonight in this, the seventh game. Flyers are 5 for 23 with the man advantage in the Stanley Cup final against the Oilers this year. Here's Crossman to Howe. Back to Crossman. They're the point men. Now Eklund getting it in on left wing. Here's a drop pass to Howe from Craven, and Howe fired it wide. Kelly Eklund, number 9, to Doug Crossman. Into Howe. Now to Craven. Craven tried to get it to Propp. Couldn't. Now knocked it back of the net. Propp there to pick it up. Propp to Howe. Mark Howe right out, shooting right on, and a save and a penalty coming up. And I believe Paul Coffey will get the gate. And that will leave the Oilers 2-man short. Holding is the call, and Coffey is the man heading to the penalty box.
Paul Coffey had broken his hockey stick, and you'll see him, once he breaks it here, he's going to have to grab a hold of the Philadelphia Flyer player, and that's Brian Propp. And he continues to hold him. He's got him in a headlock, and that's when Van Hellemond put his hand up. Well, that play developed. Mark Howe had a great shot, and Grant Fuhr made his best save to this hockey game. So here we are with a turning point, or a key, in this game, and it is early.
1:21 left in Messier's penalty, and now Coffey joins him. So the Oilers are 2 men short.
Now, Dan, Propp is playing forward on the Philadelphia power play. He has played the point on the power play, but twice the Oilers have scored shorthanded goals in this series, both by Kevin Lowe, when he's been on the point on the power play. So here they moved him back up front, and this should be very, very interesting right now.
The forward line is Craven at center, Propp on left wing, Eklund on the right side, Crossman and Howe the point men. Kurri is the only forward out there for Edmonton, with Lowe and Greg Muni on defense.
I give Kurri credit. He's not a centerman, but he beat Craven, who was very good on draws, and they got the puck out of the zone.
Here's Howe. Feeding it to Craven, back to Howe. Over to Doug Crossman. Into Eklund. Side of the net to Craven. Shot, they score! Murray Craven from a bad angle. And it's 1-0 for the Flyers.
And Mark Messier steps back on the ice. He will still be 1 man short. Now Craven looked towards center ice when he shot the puck. Fuhr did not expect the shot. We'll see Craven here look as though he's going to pass the puck. There was nobody open, so he just fired it at Fuhr. Fuhr's legs are wide open. His stick is out away from his body, and it ricochets between his legs and off the heel of his stick, and it's 1-0 on a power play goal for the Flyers.
Still 1:32 left in Coffey's penalty. Messier is back on. The Oilers one man short, but trailing 1-0. So the two-man penalty situation really hurts the Oilers. Craven is third of the playoffs. Eklund and Crossman the assists. 1:41 the time. And here's another look.
See, the Oilers have done a good job here. They had two men out deep, but that shouldn't hurt them because Craven's at a bad angle. The other man was in front, who was Propp. He was all covered, and that's simply a bad goal.
Still 1:24 left in Coffey's penalty. There's the man who scored the goal, Murray Craven, who's playing with a bad foot as he has through these playoffs, a native of Medicine Hat, Alberta. Craven against Messier on the faceoff. Messier wins it, and Kevin Lowe winds it around to Gretzky. And Gretzky poked it into center ice. Howe back over to Crossman. Now to Eklund. Rink wide, intercepted by Gretzky. Couldn't get a shot away. Messier holding it in, but as he flipped it, it went off Eklund up into the crowd.
That goal is the first time that the Flyers have scored the first goal of the hockey game, and this is the 7th game of this series. Now Eklund is their key. Anytime they're on the power play, you will see him get lots of ice time. He did get an assist on that last play. He's playing hurt, incidentally. He has a bad knee. And Mike Keenan was talking to you, Dan. He said 5 players would not be in the lineup tonight if it was a regular season game.
And then he thought about it and said maybe 6. But they're banged up. No doubt the Oilers are either. You play this many hockey games under this much pressure, you know people are playing that are hurt. Here's Crossman. His forecheck by Messier leaves it there for Howe. 52 seconds left in Coffey's penalty. Pass to Eklund. Poking it ahead to Propp. In across the line. Gretzky trying to clear it. Now Crossman. Here's Duck Crossman. Back of the net. Back on the point to Eklund. Eklund over to Crossman. Wide open. Moves in deeper. And Fuhr came out and poked it away from Crossman. Back comes Gretzky. Has Lowe and Muni with him. Gretzky trying to drop it back, but Craven was there to intercept, and Eklund takes over.
There's no question that the Flyers know that the Oilers defensemen like to go down and block shots, and they're delaying with the puck.
Here's Ron Sutter blasting one wide. 15 seconds left in the penalty. Brad Marsh chases a loose puck back in the Flyers zone. Trying to get it out. Randy Gregg held it in. There's a player that's playing hurt for Edmonton, Gregg. Now Marsh with just 2 seconds left in the penalty. To Samuelson. Coffey is back on. Here's Ron Sutter controlling it for Philadelphia. Back to Marsh. Over to Big Shell Samuelson. Into center ice to Ron Sutter. Charlie Huddy hustling back for Edmonton. To Marty McSorley, number 33. Headmanning it to Craig McTavish. McTavish trying to go around Samuelson. Can't get around that long reach of the 6'6" defenseman. And then Samuelson clearing it off Derek Smith down the ice. Ruotsalainen back to get it for Edmonton. Ruotsalainen winds up, fires one. Kicked out by Hextall. McCrimmon tried to clear it. Dave Hunter shooting. Hextall to save. Didn't see the rebound, but McSorley fanned on it. And then Marsh cleared it away. Here's Craven into center ice to Smith. McSorley ties him up and runs him into the boards. And back in the Oilers zone, Steve Smith. At center to McSorley, now to Gretzky. Gretzky trying to move in. McCrimmon is ready to break it in. And now Philadelphia will get a penalty as Gretzky was hooked. And the Oilers will have a power play. The Flyer captain, Dave Poulin, off for hooking. 4:22 the time.
Watch Gretzky with an inside move here on Howe. Howe thought he was going to the boards, and Poulin reached out with a stick and pulled Gretzky right off his feet. Now the Flyers were shorthanded an average of 5.2 times during the regular season. In the playoffs, they cut that down to 3.6. The Flyers are the Oilers 4 for 21 on the power play in this series.
And from the face-off, it's cleared down the ice by Ron Sutter. Randy Gregg going back to get it. Gregg and Ruotsalainen the point men with Gretzky, Krushelnyski, and Kurri up front. Here's Ruotsalainen. Into Krushelnyski. He's checked. Now Gregg shoots. Hextall made the save. Gretzky quickly centering. Comes to Kurri. To Ruotsalainen. He's tied up in the play by Brian Propp, and Samuelsson cleared it away. One of the criticisms of the Oilers in the power play has been not having somebody in front of the net. They have Krushelnyski out there. That's his role. That's
the key for them right now. The Oilers have so much talent on their power play that they forget about mucking, about getting in front of the other team's goaltender to work along the boards. Here they're having trouble just completing passes.
Here's Steve Smith, who's in the Oiler lineup tonight. They go with 7 defensemen. Smith in the lineup replacing Pozar, as now a play broken up at the Philadelphia line, and Craven cleared it out of there. Smith to Gretzky, 52 seconds left in the penalty. Now to Anderson, to Messier, back to Glenn Anderson. Dropping it all the way back to Smith. 42 seconds left in the penalty to Poulin. Puck still loose in center ice. Oilers having difficulty getting going on the power play.
They feel the pressure a lot more than the Flyers do, and you can tell by the amount of completions when they're passing. They are not completing their second pass here.
There's Tocchet stealing one, and a big save as Fuhr came out to cut down the angle and make a pad save. Now it's Messier with Gretzky. Flipping it in for Charlie Huddy, who joins the play. Into Gretzky. Drops to Kevin Lowe. Into Anderson. 5 seconds left in the penalty. Lowe to Gretzky. Over to Anderson. Hopped over his stick. Flyers clear it as Poulin is back on. They've killed it off. And here comes Eklund, trying to work it through to Tocchet. Anderson tied him up and comes up with the puck. Here's Glenn Anderson. Aims at full strength, giving it to Gretzky down to McTavish. McTavish moves in. His shot went off Crossman and deflected wide. McSorley. But J.P. Daigneault is there to, or J.J. Daigneault is there to get it. Now Gretzky holding it in. Here's Daigneault, who had the game winner in Game 6. Over to Crossman. And he fired it high off the glass, down the ice. Greg Muni back to touch it. Icing against the Flyers with the score. Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 0. You're watching Stanley Cup 87. With John Davidson, Jim Caddy, and Dave Hodge, Dan Kelly at the Northlands Coliseum, Edmonton. Game 7, 1987 Stanley Cup Final. 12:59 left in the first period. 1-0 Flyers. And the Flyers break to center from their own zone. Here's Ilkka Sinisalo trying to feed it through, but Muni knocked it away. To McSorley, to Dave Hunter. Hunter shoots one, and Hextall makes a glove save. Clears to Sinisalo. Now into center ice, taken by Poulin and flipped in, and he flipped it up too high and put it over the glass into the crowd.
Hunter took that last shot, but you're seeing the Oilers here not penetrating. They're taking long shots. Now this is a long shot, but a very tricky shot through the legs of Brad Marsh. And Hextall had that puck behind him, and he reached back to make the save. But there's no rebound when Hextall's set. He's ready. His glove hands out. Look where he was positioned very well for the shot. Now he can go out and position himself that far out of the goal crease for a shot if Hunter has nobody to pass to. There was nobody open there because Hextall's teammates did the job checking-wise, so he can move out and play a wrist shot by playing the angle very well, and he did it very well.
This is his 26th game of the playoffs. He played 66 regular season games. This is game number 92 of the season for Mr. Hextall.
Throw 6 exhibition games in, number 98 overall in this season.
And he says he's not tired.
Too young to be tired, Dan. He's having a great time, 23 years of age.
Here are the Oilers with Glenn Anderson. Moving it into Kent Nielsen and cut to Messier. He takes the score! Messier!
Is going to be checked. Messier has center on him, and over on the other side of the ice, Nilsson has Dave Brown, but Nilsson has for center. Now, there's Nilsson spotting his man open. Now, that time, the Flyer wingers didn't do their job checking. Hextall went out to the man with the puck, who was Nilsson, and he slid it open over across to the wide open Mark Messier, who finished the play. That line has a lot of speed, and they pulled away from the Flyers to score.
Messier from Nilsson and Anderson, 7:45 the time. Messier is 12th to the playoffs to tie it. Now the Oilers on the attack again. Kurri trying to get it in for Tikkanen. Back to Jari Kurri. Shooting. Hextall a skate save. Gretzky after the rebound. Back to Ruotsalainen. Shot right on. Hextall the save. Into his knees to cover up on the rebound. Messier has just scored. 1-1 the score. Mark Messier has not been as productive in this series, but Glenn Sather said yesterday, if there's one guy that'll be ready for Game 7, it's number 11.
Mark Messier was skating the best of any Edmonton Oiler in practice this morning, and he's showing it here again.
Here's Ruotsalainen drifting a shot high and wide. Marsh there for Philadelphia, able to clear it down the ice. Fuhr will play it, so there's no icing.
Ruotsalainen is very nervous. He's missed the net with a couple of his shots, and a couple of times when he's gone to accept passes, he's missed them. And it may take him a half a period or more to get over that.
Here's Tikkanen offended in the play. Fans holler, but no penalty call. And it's cleared into center ice by Philadelphia. Shot right back in by Ruotsalainen. Hextall away out of the net to clear it. Clears it high off the glass and gets it right out of the zone. And that's what Hextall can do better than anybody else in the goaltending business. Here's Gretzky. Checked from behind by Eklund. Oh, feeds it in. Here's Big Shell Samuelson. Shot right on. Stick save. Fuhr. Big rebound. Quickly cleared by Edmonton. And Tocchet has it at center for the Flyers. Dumps it in. Flyers put themselves back onside, and Muni cleared at the center. Picked up by Gretzky. Mark Howe over to check Gretzky. Hunter then takes Howe out of the play. And the Flyers come back. Here's Kelly Eklund. Eklund trying to feed it through the Propp. Shot right on. McSorley cleared it away. Close call there. McSorley saved the day. And now Kevin Lowe cleared it into center ice. Here's McTavish for the Oilers. Moving in. Has McSorley in front of the net. Can't get it to him. McTavish. Checked by McCrimmon. Now McSorley, who saved the day moments ago. To Lowe. Shooting. And hit the Oiler player in front of the net and bounced away as it hit McTavish, and Philadelphia shoot at the center. What action here in Edmonton. Dumped in by the Oilers. Hextall out of the net. He's bumped by McSorley. And then McCrimmon takes McSorley out of the play.
And moments before that, McTavish fell into Hextall. The Oilers are trying to get under the skin of Ron Hextall, and he's responding smartly right now. You never know when he's going to explode, but he has stated that when it's a close game, he will not explode. And it looks like the Flyers are trying to go through the legs of Grant Fuhr. The one goal they scored did very nearly another one, and McSorley darts in, beats McCrimmon to the puck, and gets rid of it moments or seconds before it was about to go over the goal line. Grant Fuhr reached back. He had no idea where it was, and he didn't want to move. He feels that if he's not sure where it is, and if he moves, he may knock it into the net. But McSorley was there, coming back with his check, right to that goal post, and he knocked it out of harm's way.
Wow, says Grant Fuhr.
You know what we're also seeing here? See this? We're picking up garbage on the ice. The Oilers, when they play a fast-paced game, they're in good shape. These fans, this is the fourth time there's been rubbish thrown on the ice surface, and it's slowing the game down, and in turn, that is going to hurt the home team. Now, Messier's goal, Dan, you saw speed and you saw some artful passing, and Anderson has got to move through the neutral zone. There's one defenseman trapped now. That's McCrimmon out of the way. Now he's going to gain the blue line, and he sees Kent Nilsson darting away from Dave Brown. Brown's on him, but Nilsson gets away. Now Hextall has to come to Nilsson, and Sutter never got back in time to grab Messier, and it was a bang-bang play, a beautiful setup, and a nice finish by Mark Messier.
The Oilers have outshot Edmonton, or outshot Philadelphia 10-8. We have 10:01 left in the first period. The Flyers took the lead on a goal by Craven. Messier has scored for Edmonton to tie it. Here's Kent Nilsson, who set up that last goal. Moving in, leaving it at the point. The shot right on. Hextall will save. And a hunting shot, and back comes Marsh as the Flyers break out the center. Over to Mellanby. Scott Mellanby trying to center, does. Knocked away by Fuhr. And Messier gets it to Anderson. And the Oilers start back. Here's Messier. Into Nielsen. Kent Nielsen. Goes into the slot, shoots. Hextall to his knees to save. Nielsen, rebound. Hextall stop back. Comes to Huddy. Into Messier. That's Brad Marsh tying Messier up. Samuelson there. Coffey pinching in. Centered it, but big Brad Marsh positioned perfectly. Breaks it up and clears it the length of the ice. Icing against the Flyers. 9:08 left in the first period. With the score, Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. You're watching Stanley Cup 87. Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. Craven scored for the Flyers at 1:41. Messier tied it at 7:45. Here's Gretzky and Ron Sutter on the faceoff. Sutter wins it and Crossman controls. And gets it into center ice. It's Kurri knocking down the Flyer player Carson. Now Ron Sutter holding it in. He's tied up, but poked it into the corner, and Esa Tikkanen is back after it. To Gretzky. Into center ice to Ruotsalainen. Ron Sutter back checking. Intercepts. And J.J. Daigneault takes over. Over to Crossman. Quickly to Sutter. Sutter fires it in. Fuhr leaving it there for Ruotsalainen. Now to Kurri. Over to Randy Gregg as the Oilers come to center. Gregg to Tikkanen, leaving it for Gretzky. Gretzky's backhand. Hextall will save, and he cleared it away in the same motion. And Tocchet comes back for Philadelphia. Rick Tocchet. Moving in. Flyers still with possession. Sutter had a shot blocked, and then Gretzky comes back to Dave Hunter. Hunter moving in. Ace check. And Philadelphia start right back. Tocchet firing it in. Fuhr sets it up. Muni gets tied up on the play. McSorley has to come back. Here's Marty McSorley. Can't get around Eklund. Behind the net to Propp. Centered out in front. Just missed Tocchet. And the puck comes to center. Howe giving it to McCrimmon as the Flyers take over. There's a two-line offside pass to Rick Tocchet. The Oilers to this point have outshot Philadelphia 14-8. With John Davidson, Dave Hodge, and Jim Taddy, this is Dan Kelly. JD, the makings of a classic underway here in Edmonton.
They're going at each other. Dan, what you're seeing here, not only people with the puck, but there's battles going on all over the ice surface away from the puck. Moments ago, it was J.J. Daigneault and Randy Gregg.
Now here's Edmonton moving in, but the play is offside as McSorley carried in. Well, all of the Oilers, or most of them, have shaved, including Craig McTavish for the 7th game.
I think the only one that didn't shave the beard off is Glenn Anderson. Brent Fuhr did, Randy Gregg did, McTavish did, change of luck. McTavish, I asked him if he ever won in a championship before. He said he played Division II college hockey in the United States at Lowell University, and they did win the championship in one of his 2 years there. And he's completing just a fabulous season. It's Craig McTavish individually.
Here's McCrimmon for Philadelphia to Eklund, now to Tocchet. Tocchet tipping it in. Racing in to Dennis Propp. He's taken out by McTavish, and Greg Muni has it. Loses it, but McSorley is there to cover up. To Dave Hunter, now to McTavish. Tocchet pulling him up. Names Holler, but no penalty called, and Hunter just dumps it in for Edmonton. Mark Howe back for the Flyers. Takes a hit, but got it to Tocchet. Now shot all the way into the Oilers zone. And Fuhr clears it himself to Marty McSorley. Tipping it to Paul Coffey. Coffey fires one. Marsh is saved. Messier had a chance at it. A poke at by Nielsen. And Hextall able to cover up on it. A close call there for the Oilers.
Coffey with some speed sets up the scoring play, but Hextall, who's made 3 saves this first period not knowing where the puck is, does it again. He's smart and he uses his size. Coffey had his shot blocked, but he's the man that set up everything, and everybody's in front. Nielsen's just going to bat him back, and Hextall's down, but he's so big at 6'3". He covers the ice surface. Now watch the little short movements Hextall makes. There's Messier. He went through the crease and gave Hextall a shot. That's the 6th time this first period. There's still 6:42 left that he's been knocked down or bumped into the Oilers. And it's obvious with their game plan, they're trying to get to him. And so far, he's been the difference in this period.
Not going to the net, going to Hextall.
Oh, they're doing it. They're just trying to run him and bump him and bump him and run him. And so far, he's kept his cool very well.
There's a play. Coffey couldn't hold it in at the point and has to hustle back. Oilers with Anderson trying to get it to Nielsen. Samuelsson intercepts. Now here's Glenn Anderson. Anderson shoots. Big save by Hextall. Marsh coming up with it. Trying to clear it. Messier intercepts. And on goal he shoots. He scores! Red light did not come on. I thought for sure that was in the net, J.D.
I did too, Dan, but play goes along. The goal judge did not put the light on. Messier thought it was in. Hextall said it went off the goalpost.
It sure went behind him. I thought it had gone in, but the red light did not come on. Play has continued. Here's Messier. And he's checked by Samuelsson, and Marsh clears it up. We'll have an argument by the Oilers once play stops. Here's Ron Sutter moving in. Fuhr there to poke it away. Sutter and Anderson collide. And Anderson able to clear it into center ice. Samuelsson knocking it back in. Randy Gregg back for the Oilers.
That play by Messier was a bad giveaway by Brad Marsh to the puck line. And I thought it was in.
So did I. Puck cleared by McCrimmon. And now it's Eklund into center ice to Propp. Propp blisters the shot that Fuhr gets a glove on. Here's Ruotsalainen giving it to Gregg. Now to Tikkanen. Quickly to Kurri. Hextall away into the corner to knock this one away. And Howe is there to clear it. Here's Kevin Lowe at his own line. Now to Muni. To Kurri. Flipped in. Scott Mellanby back for the Flyers. Mellanby trying to get away from Kurri. Gets some help on the far side from Propp. Now Howe. Rink wide to Brad McCrimmon. And he dumps it in. 4:40 left in the first period. 1-1. Oilers go back with Kevin Lowe. Now it's picked up by Dave Hunter. Hunter leaving it for Kurri. Kurri shooting. That deflects and went wide. Greg Muni pinching in. Centered it. Mellanby there to knock it away. Now Hunter held it in for Edmonton. Lowe at the point. His shot stopped by Crossman. Flyers come back, and here's Smith. Derek Smith with a long shot. Fuhr clearing it off the boards. J.J. Daigneault held it in. Here's Sinisalo blistering one wide. And back comes Nielsen with McTavish. Kurri trailing on the play. Nielsen shot and a stick save by Hextall. Sinisalo cleared it. Huddy now scooping it in. Hextall away out of the net. Cleared it. Nielsen. Hextall pushed it back in the nick of time to stop Nielsen. Now McTavish at center ice. There's Daigneault trying to check in. Backed up by Poulin. And Helleman gets knocked down the referee. Here's Sinisalo to Zezel. Now to Poulin. Back to Zezel. To Poulin. Looking to center to Crossman. Right in. Missed the net to Doug Crossman. Now Anderson trying to get it. Here's Poulin. Into Peter Zezel. Coffey has him tied up. That battle continues. Zezel gets it in front. Crossman. Big save on Doug Crossman. And Messier clears it. Crossman for the Flyers. Knocked it down, but did Glenn Anderson to Gretzky. Gretzky trying to go around Crossman. Gretzky looking for the trailer, trying to get it to Ruotsalainen, but it's tipped by Eklund to center ice. Ruotsalainen to Randy Gregg. His pass knocked down by Tocchet, and here's Daigneault shooting it in for the Flyers. Randy Gregg back to get it. Now Kurri off the boards to Gretzky. Missed him. Tocchet scoops it back in. Flyers put themselves back onside. Randy Gregg able to get it out of his zone. And here's Gretzky racing after it. Only Samuelsson back. Gretzky stops to Ruotsalainen. Banned on his shot as he was checked by Propp at the exact instant the puck got to him.
We're over 4 minutes, Dan, here without a whistle. We're seeing Great play, disciplined play, and the main reason there hasn't been a whistle is because of some fine goaltending.
Oilers would like to get a stoppage so they can argue about a goal they thought they had scored. Here's Samuelsson in this 1-1 game. 2 minutes left in period 1. Samuelsson dumping it in as both teams try and change.
Your coaches and players have to be extremely sharp here. A lot of changes on the fly.
Chance for Mellanby. This shot blocked at the defense, and then Kurri clears it out of there. Hextall sets it up for Marsh. Now decides to clear it out himself. Oilers in the act of changing didn't see it. Huddy has to go back to Anderson, picked up by Messier. Leaving it for Anderson. Anderson right in. Shot. Off a skater, a goalpost, or maybe both. Now the Oilers try and center. Hextall trying to clear it. Anderson shot it wide. And Philadelphia's Scott Mellanby starts back. Into center ice, here's McCrimmon just dumping it in. And Fuhr plays it to Charlie Huddy. Now to Anderson, now to McTavish. Howe ties him up. Huddy trying to break away. We're in the final minute here in the first period, and what a period it's been. Here's McCrimmon. Missed a check. Now Poulin gets it. Falls, but shoots it in anyway, and Randy Gregg is back for Edmonton. To McTavish. Three-man rush. 3 Flyers are back. McTavish trying to work in himself. Shot on target. Hextall the save, and he held it. Finally, a stoppage with the score. Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. You're watching Stanley Cup 87. We went close to 6 minutes without a whistle. And now, finally, the Oilers get a chance to question whether Messier had scored.
Well, it's Marsh that throws the puck, and he was being harassed by Anderson. Now look over top of the left shoulder of Hextall. Right shoulder make that. That shot is behind the goaltender. Now watch the netting. Does it bulge or not? That hit the crossbar, Dan, and did not go in. And a good call by the goal judge. A great replay on that situation, and that was a non-goal, which I had thought had Hextall beaten, it did, but it did not go in.
Thank goodness for the replay. And Andy and the officials don't have those. Here's Marsh moving in. Gregg there to break it up and shoot it to center. Samuelsson firing it back in. Here's a lead pass to Gretzky. Down with Tikkanen. Gretzky makes the shot. Trying to center it does. Wide open. Gregg shoots it high and wide. Randy Gregg set up beautifully by Gretzky. Took his time and just missed the net. Here's Samuelsson as the buzzer sounds to end the first period. And what a first period it was. The Flyers won, Edmonton won.
For the Oilers, Philadelphia were on their heels during the second half of that period. And Hextall was magnificent.
Brian Propp had 4 of the Flyers shots. Here we go at the second period. And it is Messier breaking out for Edmonton. To Nielsen, leaving for Anderson, but big Samuelsson there to break it up. Now it's flipped in by the Oilers and flipped over the glass and into the crowd. There's Kent Nielsen, who had 5 shots on goal in the first period.
It'll be interesting to see how the Oilers react as this game moves along. Now, they've been outscored in this series 9-4 during second periods, the previous 6. Now, the Flyers, what they try to do is, even if they're losing, they're tied now, but if they lose or are losing, they will continue to finish their checks. Take the body, take the body, take the body. And Reg Higgs is an assistant coach upstairs in Philadelphia. It's his job to notice when the Oilers start to tire. And he said in Game 6, they started to tire with 4 minutes left in the second period. We'll see if it happens in this game. I don't think so, Dan. There was an extra day off between games.
Flyers dumping in. Back is Anderson to Messier. Flyers held it in, however. Now Anderson battling and wins that battle from Tocchet and controls for Edmonton. Wayne Anderson speeds to center. Into Messier. Messier back to Anderson. Shot blocked at the defense, and Sutter is there to clear it back out for Philadelphia. And Ruotsalainen goes back for the Oilers. Ruotsalainen to Messier. Has Kurri with him, and Nielsen. Leaving for Kurri. Quick shot, and a pad save by Hextall. In to get it is Nielsen. Dropped it back, but picked off by Mellanby. And Mellanby hits Carson on the fly at center ice, but it's a 2-line offside. That's the way the second period begins here in Edmonton. with Jim Taddy, Dave Hodge, John Davidson, Dan Kelly at the Northlands Coliseum. Second period just underway. A pair of number 14s face off. McTavish of Edmonton, Sutter of Philadelphia, and McSorley and Lindsey Carson are high-sticking a little bit to try and get in position for this face-off. Controlled by Edmonton, and Randy Gregg fires it in. Here's Mark Howe. Clearing to Mellenby. That's Gregg pinching in. In comes McSorley. Now McCrimmon goes back the other way. Reverses and then flips it, but not out. Held in by Gregg, but now Howe cleared it to center. Randy Gregg shoots it right back in, and Mark Howe takes over for Philadelphia to Sutter. His pass picked off by McSorley, who hits McTavish on the fly. Moving in with Hunter. McTavish turns, shoots. Diving save by Hextall. He had to reach back to rob McTavish. And then it's fired down the ice by Philadelphia. Oilers Coffey back together. McTavish, who was just robbed by Hextall. It's centered to McSorley. Intercepted and cleared out by Propp. And the Oilers control at their own line with Huddy passing it off the boards for Hunter. Now into center ice, Tocchet. Well, the Flyers dumps it in.
The Oilers' passes are starting to click a lot more. McTavish went down the ice because he was set up beautifully on a pass from McSorley. There's another quick pass, and they come out of the zone.
This time it's Coffey, but Gagnon took him out, and Eklund comes right back for the Flyers. Eklund leaving it for Tocchet. Tocchet centered it. The man was there, but had been knocked down, and Gretzky gives it to Tikkanen. Now to Kurri. Only Crossman back. Kurri trying to move in. Jari Kurri still with it. And then he hands the puck right to Brian Propp. Propp tied up and knocked down by Kurri. And Kurri back to get the loose puck. Clears to Tikkanen, now to Gretzky. Over to Muni. Now Tikkanen on the fly at center. Leaves it for Kurri. Kurri missed it, and Dave Poulin cleared it out of there. Ruotsalainen back for Edmonton, being hounded by Sinisalo. The pass to Gretzky. Into center ice to Anderson. Quickly to Ruotsalainen. Around the defense. Upended. There'll be a penalty there. To Philadelphia, I believe, Sinisalo. And an Edmonton power play coming up with the score. Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. Sinisalo gets a hooking penalty. 3:39 the time.
Ruotsalainen is the man with the puck. Danny's better without the puck. He was passed to by Anderson, would set that up, and McTavish tried a 360. He had Hextall with him. Hextall reached out with the backhand of his goal stick in desperation and made the save. Now Ruotsalainen went down the ice without the puck, and that's when he's very good. It's up to his teammates to make the pass. That time Anderson hit Ruotsalainen with the pass, and that's what drew the penalty.
Here's Messier, Anderson, Gretzky, Coffey, and Huddy on the Oiler power play. Sutter will take the face-off with Messier. The Oilers are 4 for 22 in this series, and in the playoffs, here's a quick shot, and Hextall just got a stick on it. Now Gretzky to Coffey. Back to Gretzky. To Anderson, a shot. That one hit Huddy on the back of the leg, and Huddy limps as he gets up. And the Flyers' Sutter gets it to center.
That was a great face-off for the Oilers. Messier took it. He won it back to his defense mate, who was Gretzky on the blue line, and he set it up with a one pass across the Coffey for the shot. A set play on a face-off.
Here's Messier leaving it for Gretzky. Gretzky moves in, shoots. Hextall to save. Rebound, and it's poked wide by Messier and cleared out of there for Philadelphia. Oilers 17 power play goals in the playoffs, only a 19.3 percentage. Here's Gretzky. Dumps it in. Hextall out of the net to fire it high down the ice.
17 power play goals, right, Dan, but 14 on home ice. So they're much better here at home than they are on the road. They have to have some respect shown for their power play.
Here's Kurri. Leaving it there. That's broken up, and Craven breaks away for Philadelphia. Murray Craven with a drive, and Fuhr made the save and went to his knees to smother the rebound.
The Oilers have not given up a short-handed goal. in this series. In fact, they've only given up one all playoffs. That was by Winnipeg's Doug Smale 3 series ago. This is Craven, who has good speed. His nickname is Crafty, and here he knew he had to take the shot, but Grant Fuhr looks much sharper now. Charlie Huddy skating off the effects of being hit in the back of the leg. Now, when Gretzky was on the point for that power play, it was Huddy that was moved up front because he's the guy that will stand in front of the net, and he paid for it as that shot hit him right in the back of the leg. We'll see Gretzky move it across, and there's Anderson with a one-motion shot and Huddy in front, and man, that hurt all the way up here.
Back to the live action as Gregg moves it to Messier. Still 36 seconds left in Sinisalo's penalty. Anderson breaks in for Edmonton. Moving in, centered to Messier, but that was broken up and cleared away by McCrimmon. And the Oilers have to go back.
The Oilers have changed their power play. They're not near as fancy as they were earlier in the series, and they're just going to the net as much as possible, trying to screen the goaltender, Hextall.
Here's Messier, 12 seconds left in the penalty. And it's offside at the Philadelphia blue line, now with 8 seconds remaining in Sinisalo's penalty.
Now, Gretzky and Messier have been getting the most ice time per game for these Edmonton Oilers. Messier, in fact, a little more than Gretzky, around the 27-minute mark. Gretzky about 26.5 minutes per game. Brian Propp has been getting the most for the Flyers, and he's around 26 minutes. And the reason is because all of them they play the specialty teams, both penalty killing and the power play.
Here's McTavish getting it to Hunter. It's McTavish, McSorley, and Hunter on the forward line. Penalty winding down, and Sinisalo is now back on. Here's McSorley, checked by Eklund. Up back to get the loose puck. Here's Craig Muni. Over to Kevin Lowe. Lowe to McSorley. He gives it to Craig Muni, ahead to McTavish. Here's McTavish moving in. McTavish gets turned around. Daniel tied him up, and then Smith cleared it out of there. And here come the Flyers as Eklund moves in with Tocchet. The pass to Tocchet, back to Smith. Smith trying to poke it in front. Muni broke that up, and Dave Hunter cleared it for the Oilers. Crossman going back for Philadelphia. Firing it to the line, held in by Gretzky. Here's McSorley, but Daniel is there for Philadelphia. Daniel able to clear it, and Paul Coffey has to chase back for Edmonton to Huddy. Now to Gretzky. On the fly to Curry. Offside, says the linesman, Ron Finn. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final here in Edmonton. The shots on goal at this point favor Edmonton, 22-13.
Edmonton rotating 3 lines here. They have dressed 7 defensemen. Smith, the extra defenseman. Crucial, Niski, and McClellan seeing little ice time. So Sather's thinking is, if I'm going to lose, I'm losing with my best 9 forwards.
Here's Coffey back for the Oilers, working it to Tikkanen. Now to Huddy. Huddy getting it to the Flyer line, but Howe takes over as Mellenby took Huddy out of the play. Howe fires to center, and Kurri is back to get it for Edmonton. Kurri leaving it. Here comes Paul Coffey. Gets it to Gretzky. Gretzky moving in to Tikkanen, off his skate, and then cleared by Howe. Kurri held it in to Tikkanen. In front for Gretzky, but Hextall cleared it. Randy Gregg shooting one. That's blocked, and Sutter starts back for the Flyers. Has McCrimmon and Mellenby with him. Pass to McCrimmon, who just poked it in. Ruotsalainen back for Edmonton. Losing it. There's a chance for Sutter. Now Sinisalo. Big save, Fuhr on Ilka Sinisalo. Back comes Gretzky. 2-on-2 Edmonton break. Gretzky played it off the boards, and then it's offside at the Flyer line. And what a save Grant Fuhr just made on that man, Ilka Sinisalo.
You know, when Ruotsalainen gave the puck away, he recovers quickly because of his skating. Watch him get the man he just gave the puck to. But there's Sinisalo coming in all by himself. It's a one-on-one here, and Grant Fuhr waited and kicked it out with his right leg. Ruotsalainen gave it away, but his quickness avoided a Sutter play. Now Sinisalo comes in late, and Grant Fuhr got it with the inside of his right pad. It looked like Sinisalo trying to go through the legs again.
He pointed that out in the first period. That seems to be the Flyers' thinking.
And Craven took that short-handed shot from the wing, and he tried to put that one through the legs of Fuhr.
Here's Nielsen, leaving it for low to Anderson, quickly to Messier, but Marsh is there to break it up. Samuelson now to Peter Zezel. Here's Zezel. Long shot that Fuhr handles. Muni takes over for the Oilers. And Edmonton start back. Here's Kent Nielsen. Nielsen in across the line to Lowe. Here's Lowe, written out by Craven. Lowe continues to battle. Lowe checked by Marsh. And now Samuelson firing it into center ice to Sinisalo. That's called back on the two-line offside. With the score, Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. You're watching Stanley Cup 87. Seventh game, John Davidson, should be a goaltender's battle, and it is.
And we're seeing great goaltending from both goalkeepers. There's an old story, though, Dan. It's not what you stop, it's what you let in. And to this point, Grant Fuhr has let one questionable goal in. Hextall is not.
Face-off is going to be deep in the Philadelphia zone. Mike Keenan, the head coach. Paul Holmgren, the assistant alongside. By the way, the Flyers have brought in about a dozen of the members of their mid-70s Stanley Cup team for moral support here tonight.
And they're sitting all throughout the Coliseum. People like the Hammer, Dave Schultz, and Hound Dog Kelly,
Horace
Rick McLeish, some of the great names from the past for the Flyers organization. A morale move by Jay Snyder and the Flyers. The Oilers, how about this? They kidnapped the Stanley Cup this morning and locked it up so the Flyers couldn't use it as a motivational tool, which they have the last two games.
There's Crossman trying to work it out of there. Huddy held it in, comes to Hunter. Now to Huddy with a drive off the goalpost, but it was all for naught because of a hand pass, and play had been called, and the faceoff is moved outside the blue line.
Tonight we have Andy Van Helleman officiating. Game 6, it was Dave Newell, and he was ridiculed somewhat by a lot of people after that game. I understand he has contacted a lawyer, and he is thinking about moving along in the legalities, and might be a long summer for a lot of people.
They take a lot of criticism, the officials, and there's been a lot of it this year in the playoffs right from the start. Here's Propp for Philadelphia. Daniel loses to McTavish. To McSorley. Shoots up high off the glass. Daniel trying to clear it. McSorley in battling again. To Hunter. Dave Hunter trying to make a centering play. Did, but Propp intercepts, and here's Daniel. J.J. Daniel to Eklund. He's taken up by McSorley. And McTavish drops it to Coffey. Rink wide to Huddy. Now to McSorley, but Daniel knocks it away. Here's Eklund, number 9 for the Flyers. Leaving it for Propp. This pass ahead to Tocchet, now to Daniel. Shot right on, stick save, and Dave Hunter has it for Edmonton. To McTavish, picked up by Coffey. Paul Coffey. Back to McTavish, backhander, Hextall a save. McSorley a rebound try. Now Gregg a shot. Stopped at the defense. And here's Crossman. Trying to clear it. Smith held it in. Smith shot, and McSorley deflected that just wide. McTavish knocked it behind the net, but Crossman has it for Philadelphia to Propp. Bumped at center ice by Randy Gregg. We've just passed the 10-minute mark of the second period. Here's Tikkanen to Gretzky, but his pass for Kurri comes back into the neutral ice area. Back to Gretzky. Gretzky shoots. That's off Crossman and wide of the net. Doug Crossman for Philadelphia. Into center ice. Mellenby gets some rough treatment from Steve Smith, and Randy Gregg takes over for the Oilers. Flipped it over Howe, going back to get it is McCrimmon.
The McTavish line with McSorley and Hunter have played hard every shift, and you're seeing them win along the boards. They may be a major factor before this one's over just because of the way they're working.
There's Mellenby trying to break in through the Edmonton defense. Now Gretzky back to steal it from Howe. Gretzky leaving it for Muni. Now to Tikkanen. Esa Tikkanen. Over to Kurri. Kurri being checked by Mellenby. Just flipped it to center. Here's Lindsey Carson. Stopped once, tries again. Kevin Lowe knocked it down. Now it's Jari Kurri at the Oiler blue line. Off the boards to Tocchet and McCrimmon to Sinisalo to Lindsey Carson. He went to the bench at a line change instead. And Muni feeds Gretzky. Gretzky with Tocchet. Trying to center it. Back checking was Garrick Smith. Number 24, Smith. A pass behind Sinisalo. Goes the length of the ice. You're out to play it, though, so there's no icing. In there forechecking is Zezel. Comes to Samuelson at the point. Into Smith. In front to Sinisalo. Glove save. Fuhr on Sinisalo. A second spectacular save Fuhr has made in Sinisalo in this period. 8 minutes, 11 seconds left in the second period. And another great save moments ago by Grant Fuhr on Ilkka Sinisalo.
Well, Samuelson kept the puck in the zone, Dan, but what we're seeing here, Philadelphia being very patient. And there's the pass in front. And Grant Fuhr, the great save on a deflection in front. But the Flyers are being patient between the blue lines. Waiting, creating a turnover, and then waiting for the good scoring chance. The only difference here now is Grant Fuhr.
Shots on goal in this period. Edmonton 6, Philadelphia 5 in the game. 24-17, favor of Edmonton.
And Grant Fuhr's two biggest saves in this period, both off of Sinisalo.
Messier and Zezel on an important face-off. Won by Zezel. Messier then knocked him down, and there's the strength of Messier again. And Huddy feeds to Krushelnyski. Now to Anderson. Anderson leaving for Messier. Shot off the blocker of Hextall, and then Smith cleared it. And here's Sinisalo firing it into center ice. Zezel bumped hard by Huddy. And Marsh knocked down Messier, and he's going to get a penalty here. Brad Marsh will get a holding penalty. And an Oiler power play coming up. With the score, Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1.
Brad Marsh, the man in the penalty box, you see the call, it's holding. Before that, what a collision. Zezel and Charlie Huddy. Boom. Huddy goes into the boards heavily. Now Messier has speed going for him, and Marsh is standing still. Messier's legs go out from underneath him very easily on that play, but he drew the penalty. Dan, Messier is playing much more nasty in this hockey game. That last face-off, he knocks Zezel right down to the ice. That's what Mark Messier has to do to be effective. Play ugly.
Philadelphia is shorthanded. They cleared down the ice. Messier in control for the Oilers. Into Anderson. Anderson missed Nielsen, but Huddy held it in. To Paul Coffey. Coffey shooting. Hextall. Bad save, and then he held on to it.
Hextall moves out to the man with a puck, and he's going to try and make sure he's not beaten by staying deep in the net. Now Coffey ends up on the left side of the ice. He's going to move in. Now Messier's moved out across to the side, so it's just Coffey and Hextall, and that shot's up in the knees, and that's where the goaltender grabs it. If it's down low on the ice, there would be a rebound, and Hextall would be way out of the net. You'll see him way above the goal crease. It's just him and the shooter, and that shot comes up high. You see Hextall playing it very tight and smart. You know, another thing, that on that shot, Dan, he wasn't really set. The goaltender was moving. If that shot's on the ice, it's tough for a goaltender to move his skates, to move his feet.
Messier and Sutter. Messier coming up with it. Oilers on the power play. Messier giving it to Anderson. Wayne Anderson to Messier. Back to Coffey, wide with a one-timer that just missed. Huddy gives it to Nielsen. And Nielsen back to Huddy. Back to Nielsen. To Huddy. Huddy shoots. Hextall, a stick save. And then he was able to grab the rebound with Coffey standing right off to the side of it.
Now Huddy's the man, when he shoots it, he likes to keep the puck down. He waited and waited, tried to get somebody in front. And Hextall drops down before the shot, puts the shaft of his stick on the ice surface, watching through traffic. He goes down. Now he's already down, and he makes the save. Good checking in front by Samuelson, and Grossman will come back into Anderson. Boom, they're on those players. Coffey's in behind, and so is Nielsen looking for rebounds. But Hextall, who combines both size and quickness so well, did not allow a rebound again. Very seldom is the puck sneaking away from that Flyer goaltender.
Now Gretzky comes on the ice. Huddy moves up to play on the right side. Gretzky drops back on the point with Coffey. So up front it will be Messier, it will be Anderson and Huddy. And on the face-off, Sutter against Messier. Sutter gets it, and the Flyers' Hextall trying to fire it out of there. Held in by Coffey. Messier ran into Van Helleman. Here's Crossman trying to clear it away, but play had been called because the puck had been hit with a high stick.
It's interesting. Crossman is the leading scoring defenseman that's still in the playoffs. He's a couple of points behind Larry Robinson. But he was a very good offensive defenseman when he played junior hockey in Ottawa. People like Dennis Pudman and Doug Wilson on that same team. And then when he was drafted by Chicago, he was traded to the Flyers. Now, that draft choice involved with that trade, along with Crossman, turned out to be Mellenby. Ben Wilson went the other way to Chicago, and Ben Wilson missed most of the year with a bad back. He did skate on his own at the end of the year, and the Chicago people tell me they expect to have Ben Wilson back in the lineup next season.
Again, Sutter and Messier. Messier trying to take Sutter into the boards. Does. Puck still being kicked around. Now Gretzky to Coffey. Over to Huddy, back to Paul Coffey. Back to Huddy. Huddy in front to Messier. A whack at it. Blocked it to the fence. Coffey shooting. Messier trying to get it again to Anderson. Now to Gretzky. Gretzky put it in front. Hextall backs it away. Here's Gretzky. Shoots. Shot it wide in the short side. 24 seconds left in the penalty to Philadelphia. Coffey for the Oilers to Gretzky. Gretzky loses to Sutter, and Sutter with a fine defensive play, one-on-one against Coffey, and he fires it with Fuhr getting his blocker on it. There's Sutter in with Coffey. In comes Anderson. Now the Flyers, Craven coming up with it, trying to get it as the penalized player Marsh is back on, and Ruotsalainen held Sutter against the boards in quite a shift by number 14, one of the Sutter clan for the Flyers.
And he seems to be getting better as this game progresses. Every time there's been a stoppage in play. Look at the pain. Look at his face. You can see pain right there. He has a bad knee and a bad back. When you talk about a Sutter, Dan, you know you're going to get the effort. He has a body, you would compare it to that of a gymnast. It's a wiry body and not a lot of protection on it. And when he goes into the boards, it hurts. And here he is being crumpled by Glenn Anderson, yet he continues to control that puck as much as possible. The whistle is now sounded, and that's another little sign of a Sutter getting ugly with a stick after the play. But you saw the pain on his face. He's playing hurt as usual.
Here's Dave Smith from the faceoff, trying to clear it out of there. And McSorley kicks the puck into center ice. Less than 6 minutes to play in the second period. 1-1 as Tocchet works it into Eklund. Eklund to McCrimmon, off the chest of Fuhr on the quick shot. Now Craven couldn't get it in front, and Steve Smith knocks it down. Back comes McSorley to Smith. Smith into Hunter, but offside is the play at the Flyer line. 5:13 left in the second period. It's still 1-1. John Davidson, this is still anybody's hockey game.
Oh, it's a great game. Lots of pace. The goaltending's been good. I'm watching matchups now. You have Derek Smith out against Kurri. There's Sinisalo and Tikkanen, but the main matchup right now is Kurri and Smith. Smith's had a fine playoff being a defensive winger for the Flyers.
Jumped in by Edmonton. Crossman trying to clear it. Gretzky intercepts. Kurri shoots. He scores!
By Tikkanen. There's Gretzky, and Kurri's all by himself. Smith isn't over there, and there's a great shot across the body, a right-handed shot onto the long side, a perfectly shot puck by Kurri. Dan, all three forwards on one side of the ice.
Jari Kurri's 15th goal of the playoffs. Edmonton has a 2-1 lead. Here's McCrimmon dumping it in. Mellenby chases in. Randy Gregg there to get it to Tocchet. And Smythe takes over for the Oilers. Off the boards to Kurri. Held in by McCrimmon. Shooting. He fired that wide. Now Mellenby dropping it back. Howe, a good play to hold it in. Jumping, leaping save by Fuhr. And then Smythe gets some rough treatment from a couple of the Flyers back of the net, including Mellenby.
Smythe and Sutter have had a running feud here during this shift. They punched each other in the chops a couple of times. Kurri, as I mentioned, 3 forwards on one side of the ice, and Philadelphia didn't collapse and check well on the play. Actually, Crossman gets control. He should have got rid of the puck right away. Tocchet takes the body. Bang. That's a proper play. Gretzky's being checked by Zezel, but he gets away. And there is Kurri with a quick receiving of the pass and a release of the shot, and a brilliant shot low on the ice inside the goalpost.
Gretzky's 29th assist of the playoffs. His 9th here in the Stanley Cup Finals, which ties a Stanley Cup record with Jacques Lemaire, who had 9 assists back in the 1973 Stanley Cup Final. The goal by Kurri is 15th of the year. Meanwhile, Smythe and Mellenby get roughing minors, coincidental penalties. Neither team shorthanded. Here's Krushelnyski for Edmonton. The Oilers leading 2-1. Glenn Anderson trying to break in. Anderson centered, Messier right in. Backhander, and he flipped it wide. Craig Muni in, tied up by Samuelson. Now Krushelnyski. That's a Muni, a shot. That hit Anderson. Still loose in front. Krushelnyski whacks at it. Messier fired from a sharp angle wide. And tough check on a Flyer player by Messier. And he's going to get a penalty. It was Sinisalo that he jolted into the boards on the far side.
And Messier is playing nasty. You'll see him come in here towards the loose puck, and he hammers Craven into the boards. Now, he was gliding into the play, and it wasn't a big check, but the stick was there, and he used it as a cross-check. I'm not exactly sure what they may, and they have called. I believe it's cross-checking on Messier. If he goes in with his shoulder there, it's not a penalty. He went in with the shaft of a stick, and that's a 2-minute minor. Now, the Oilers had everything going for them here. This may change things around somewhat for the Flyers. Now, moments before, Anderson is going to work it across to Messier, who had gotten away from his check. There was Craven, and he tried to go through the legs there and open up the legs of Hextall. Hextall stayed with him. Messier scored a shorthanded goal earlier in the series by opening up the legs of Hextall and putting it through.
It's a charging penalty against Messier. 16:02 the time. And Philadelphia trailing 2-1 now with the man advantage. Flyers are 1 for 2 on the power play tonight. You'll recall the first goal of the game came with Philadelphia scoring when they had a 2-man advantage. Eklund is out there along with Propp, Howe, Crossman, and on the far side, Sinisalo. Sinisalo in low battle for it. It comes to Crossman. To Mark Howe. Crossman for Philadelphia to Howe. Howe spun around by Muni. Howe keeps on going. Muni stays with him. Howe continuing to battle, but back came McTavish. And it's chopped up over the glass.
Mark Howe's dad, the great player Gordy, holds the NHL record for points in a final series, and that is 12 points. He set that in 1955, and that's when Detroit beat Montreal in 7 games, and his dad scored the game-winning goal in that series. Gretzky now has 11 points in this series. He's 1 point behind Mark Howe's father, the great Gordy.
3:37 left in period 2. 1:39 left in the penalty to Messier. Eklund and McTavish. And McTavish wins the draw to Coffey. Now to Gretzky. To McTavish. Howe took him out, and Eklund is back to get the loose puck. Here's Pelle Eklund. Drops it. Propp partially fanned on it. Coffey able to block it. Cleared it outside the line. Got back in offside.
Ron Finn, the linesman, right in front of the play by Crossman, and he made the call. Howe getting lots of ice time for the Philadelphia Flyers. He won a championship. He won the Memorial Cup one year. That was in 72-73. He was with the Toronto Marlboros. Some of the players on that team, Bob Gainey, Mike Palmentier was the goaltender, the coach, George Armstrong, great Leaf player from the past.
Here's Eklund against McTavish, 1:20 left in the penalty to Messier. 3:18 left in the second period. Kurri has scored the only goal of this period from Gretzky to give Edmonton the lead. Now McTavish and Eklund get ready for the faceoff.
With Messier in the penalty box, McTavish gets more key ice time, killing penalties. He's usually the third center. That time he won the draw, and he makes the change.
Here's Crossman, firing it into center ice. Knocked down there by Coffey. Now Howe kicking it ahead, and here's Kent Nielsen. Trying to flip it. Propp intercepts, but Coffey there to cover up. And as he cleared it, it went off a stick over the glass into the crowd.
The Oilers doing a super job right at the center ice area. Mike Keenan looking on. His hockey club had a team vote this morning as to whether or not they should practice. And they voted no, so they stayed at the hotel and relaxed. It's the fourth time, actually the fifth time, the Flyers have been involved in a seventh game in a series. First one on the road. 2 wins, 2 losses in the previous 4 on home ice. And they are here to win it by going all out, just like they've done all series long.
Here's Craig Muni clearing it to the Flyer line. 52 seconds left in Messier's penalty. Crossman giving it to Howe. To Crossman. Now in for Craven, but there defensively to break it up was the Oilers' Muni. Held in. Kevin Lowe back to get it. Now a good play to hold it in, but and he's tied up at the blue line. And Propp drops it back to Crossman. Flyers having difficulty. Here's Craven trying to move in. Muni there. And McTavish is there to shoot it away. And the Oilers really bottling up the blue line and stopping the Flyers in this power play.
Nothing fancy, Dan. They're just being aggressive. They're going at the man with a puck every time they get a chance.
It's Sinisalo with a shot off the target. Back comes Gretzky with Kurri. 2-on-1 break. Only Samuelson back. Gretzky to Kurri. Shot it wide. As Kurri got in a little too deep. Now Messier is back on. And Edmonton's at full strength.
That's what happens when you miss the net. Sinisalo missed the net. Went right around the boards and set up a 2-on-1. Shell Samuelson saved the Flyers right there.
Here's Messier to Gretzky. Fires right on target. Hextall a save. And he held on to it for a faceoff.
Gretzky loves to pass on a 2-on-1. Samuelson with his reach was able to get back in front of Jari Kurri. Now Sinisalo had missed the net and Zezo can't keep it in. Gretzky gets it. Now watch Samuelson turn, go to the man that he should, and that's Kurri. And look at that reach. That's about a 12-foot reach, including his arms and his stick. And he got to that puck before Kurri could put it in the open side. 2-on-1, the defenseman has to play the man without the puck. The goaltender has to play the man with the puck. And the Philadelphia Flyers would not be here in the 7th game if they had not made a trade for this man, Shell Samuelson. He's been very good for them.
30 years of age, really still a rookie in the NHL. Played briefly with the Rangers a year ago, but he's been somewhat of a find in this playoffs for Philadelphia.
The Rangers did very well in the trade in acquiring Bob Froese, the goaltender.
Here's Kent Nielsen in the curve. Hextall came out to knock it away as Marsh tied Nielsen up. Back the other way comes Sutter. Sutter couldn't get around Coffey. Sutter leaves for Samuelson, who couldn't hold it in. Now Messier flattened by Sutter. Anderson has it to Nielsen. Over to Huddy. Charlie Huddy. Anderson shoots. Hextall a save. We're in the final minute of the second period. Samuelson, Anderson battling. And Sutter comes back for Philadelphia. Number 14, Ron Sutter. To Marsh. Flyers trail by a goal. Back to Sutter. He missed it. Carson moving in. Steve Smith trying to break it up. And Asatikin intercepts and feeds it to Randy Gregg. Greg to Nilsson. McCrimmon is there to poke it away. Now Smith shoots it in for Edmonton as he and Howe collided heavily. McCrimmon for the Flyers. Missing Eklund with a long pass. Low back to Tocchet. And that's icing against Philadelphia. We're down to 18 seconds left in the period.
It's interesting when you look at situations now, 18 seconds left in the period, who the coaches put on the ice during that last minute. They went with Muni and Lowe as the defense pair for Edmonton. Here's a cross-ice pass to Kent Nilsson, but Brad Marsh cuts him off of the pass at the last second, just hooks him from behind. And the Oilers have shown a lot of speed, and they're coming very, very close, but they're not finishing. We'll talk about the 2-on-1 here, a near breakaway. The Flyers showing their art of survival. Do it again.
2-1, Edmonton leading. McTavish gets a face-off to Munich. His shot wide of the net. Hextall trying to clear it out. Held in by Muni. Howe trying to kick it out. McSorley knocked it down, and it's shot out by Craven for Philadelphia. Hunter firing it in. Just 2 seconds left. McCrimmon back to get it, and there's the buzzer to end the second period, and the Oilers lead after 2-1.
And for Glenn Rush, his last game as a player in the National Hockey League, he will retire after this game, and he doesn't really know what he's going to get into, but he was very nervous and excited about it.
Here's Kent Nilsson as the third period gets underway. Over to Glenn Anderson. Now to Messier. The Oilers with a 2-1 lead as period 3 begins. Big Samuelson trying to clear it in. Sinisalo racing in. Lowe tied him up. And now Nilsson gives it to Messier. In comes Brad Marsh. Now Nilsson loses. Chance here. And a big block by Kevin Lowe on the shot by Zezel. And then it's cleared down the ice. Hextall firing it right back. Sinisalo at center to Zezel. Zezel couldn't get around Coffey, and it scooped into the Philadelphia zone. Marsh is there to get it. Marsh flips it in. Coffey back after it. Here's McSorley, and he just clears the zone to center ice. Mark Howe for the Flyers, shooting it in. That's Huddy back for Edmonton. Intercepted by Propp to Howe. Firing it around on the boards. In comes Eklund. He can't get it. And one of the Oilers grinders, Dave Hunter, works it out into center ice. Shot back in by Eklund. There's Propp, but Huddy is there defensively. And McSorley to McTavish. Has Hunter with him. McTavish, backhander, hit the side of the net. McSorley centered right through the crease. And Eklund tries to clear it and does.
McTavish does everything but finish. He is playing his best game of the finals here tonight.
Here's Tikkanen moving in. Shot. Hextall to save. And Carson feeds it to Mellanby. Here's Scott Mellanby. Couldn't get around Randy Gregg. Fired from Kurri to Gretzky. Hit on goal. Hextall came out to cut down the angle and stop Gretzky. Samuelson now trying to clear it. Here's Sutter. In front of his own net to Marsh. And the Flyers come back to center. Lindsey Carson, number 18. Trying to leave it there. Trying to flip it in front. Randy Gregg trying to clear it. Here's Fuhr racing out. Dives and up in Mellanby and throws the puck on a close play near the Edmonton goal crease. Greg McTavish just about scored a big goal for the Oilers, JD.
It was on his backhand, and once again, Dan, it was a good pass that he received from Marty McSorley. Now he has no choice but to shoot it from a bad angle. Hextall was off a little bit, and it hit the goalpost.
Here's Krushelnyski as we move to the live action to Messier. Mark Messier just dumping it in. Hextall cuts it off, fires it up on the wing. Poulin giving it to Tocchet, now tipped near the Edmonton line. Red Muni losing it. Here's a chance, but as Poulin touches the puck, then the play is called on a delayed offside at the Edmonton blue line.
It's been a fairly loud building here, and the linesmen are doing a good job by blowing their whistles long and hard so the players can hear it. Now Dave Poulin, not only is he playing with those bad ribs that he had injured during the Rangers series, but he's playing with a broken hand. And the hand that he has broken is the hand on the bottom of the hockey stick kinds of pain himself.
Here's the line of Cecil, Smith, and Mellanby for Philadelphia, but Ruotsalainen has it for Edmonton and dumps it in. Hextall firing it up on the board. Smith just tips it to center. Ruotsalainen, who's out on the Oiler defense with Gregg, gives it to Randy Gregg. Now to Anderson. On the fly to Kent Nielsen. Nielsen dropping it back to Gregg. Gregg moving in, shooting right on. Hextall will save it. He's pounced on the rebound.
Once again, we see the Oilers taking high shots at Hextall, and Hextall hangs on to it. The Oilers starting to move the puck around very well. They're making long passes, and that's a different way of accepting a pass, but that's the talent that Kent Nielsen has. Now he draws people to him and then finds the open man. He had 4 people going towards him, and Randy Gregg goes in, but the shot's too high. You're not going to have a rebound if you're going to shoot it high into the midsection of Ron Hextall. He'll hang on to it every time.
Here's a big face-off. Messier against Sutter. Won by the Oilers. Gregg shoots, hit the goal post. Randy Gregg just hit the post. Centered off, Nielsen just wide. Now Messier. But McCrimmon is there to clear it out. And it's tipped down the ice by Carson with Ruotsalainen back for the Oilers. Ruotsalainen played it off the boards all the way down the ice.
Messier, Gregg, and McTavish have all hit goalposts or crossbars in this game.
Long shot by Carson for Philadelphia. Now it's flipped up over the boards by Coffey. Well, earlier in the game we thought one might have been in, but this one definitely at the goal post.
You'll see Hextall bend down and cover the bottom half of the net because he does not see the puck. He is absolutely screened on the play, and you'll see him bend down, and Gregg takes the shot, and there's the play leading up to it. That one deflected in front. But Hextall concentrating, looking around, waits. Now the puck's out to the point, and he's got position. The shot goes over top of his shoulder, and boom, off the goalpost. You see Messier with Sutter on him, and it was Messier who set up that screen.
The Oilers with a 2-1 lead. Paul Coffey trying to get it into center ice. Tocchet knocks it back in, and McTavish drops it. The Huddy now into center ice. A long pass cleared by McSorley into the Flyers zone. McCrimmon in to get it. Coffey at the point, held it in. Hunter tried a deflection, missed it, and Howe fires it out of there for Philadelphia with McSorley. Back for Edmonton. Marty McSorley barreling in on left wing. Cuts in, never got the shot off, but made a fancy move. Did McSorley. Here's Craig Muni to McTavish. McTavish trying to go around McCrimmon. Upended, shoots anyway, and then ran into Hextall. And they wrestle around in the goal crease. McTavish and Hextall. And that draws the crowd.
The only thing I can say here on behalf of Hextall is the Oilers have been in his face all night long, but Hextall also has to remember to retain his energy. It's a very difficult thing to do, is to fight and wrestle. You lose a lot of your strength as a goaltender when you get involved with it. Now, it's not his fault that he slides into Hextall here. He was tripped by his own man, or excuse me, by a Philadelphia Flyer. Now, Hextall just does not like the fact that McTavish is there. McTavish is tying up Hextall. Now, watch Hextall probably gets pretty involved. McTavish has been the best Oiler on the ice, and he's getting stronger here in the third period.
With the score, Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. You're watching Stanley Cup 87. .15:29 left in regulation time. Andy Van Helleman trying to settle things down here after it started between McTavish and Hextall.
McTavish had all kinds of speed going to the outside of the defenseman, and he had him beat. And the defenseman trips McTavish, and he just goes into the goaltender. Now Hextall is upset, and he's trying to get back into play. And there's a headlock by McTavish, which stopped Hextall from getting up. And I think that's what incensed Hextall. There, the left hand of Hextall is being trapped by McTavish. McCrimmon comes to his aid, adds a looking on, wondering what is going to be called, and maybe biting the nails somewhat.
We await the call from Andy Van Hellemond as well.
Now the players that were on the ice for Philadelphia, Propp, Eklund, Marsh, Samuelson, and Tocchet. Now if the goaltender Hextall gets a penalty, one of those five have to serve it, and they're the top five as far as Philadelphia coming from behind.
Tocchet, by the way, is already in the penalty box for Philadelphia, so he may be the man. With John Davidson, Dave Hodge, and Jim Caddy, Dane Kelly in Edmonton on Stanley Cup 87. And Hellemond has put 2 Flyers in the penalty box, 2 Oilers, and we'll await the official announcement. No penalties up on the time clock, so it appears, JD, as if everything will be coincidental. Here's the announcement.
27, Ron Hextall. To Philadelphia's number 22, Rick Tocchet. To the Oilers' number 14, Craig McTavish. And to the Oilers' number 33, Marty McSorley. All 2 minutes each for roughing. The time, 4 minutes, 31 seconds.
There you hear the announcement from a PA announcer. Eklund, by the way, will serve the penalty to the Flyers goaltender Hextall as you look at Mike Keenan.
And I bet he would wish that he had Tim Kerr in the lineup. Kerr, incidentally, had 13 points in 12 games, the 5th leading scorer at this point on the Flyers Hockey Club in the playoffs.
They lost a lot of their offense when Fuhr couldn't answer the bell. Here's Gretzky in to get a loose puck, centered in the front. Curry's shot went off to the corner, and then Lowe took Mellenby out of the play, but the puck to the Oiler line. Muni clearing it up, and Curry knocks it into the Flyers zone. Hextall giving it to Howe. Howe firing it. Mellenby racing in. Lowe and Mellenby collide heavily. And as the Oiler player touches it, an icing call has been made by the linesman John D'Amico. Scott Mellenby, 20-year-old rookie of the Flyers, the youngest player in this series.
He put on 15 pounds during the last offseason. He's now up over 200 pounds, and with his good work habits and his big size, he's a typical Flyer player. He plays with a lot of intensity, and very seldom does he make a body check where he doesn't get a piece of the opposition player. And the Flyers, when it comes draft time, they scout people like Scott Mellenby, who incidentally will go back to school at Wisconsin this upcoming offseason.
Face-off, won by Philadelphia, controlled by Gregg. Marsh took it away from Gregg, gives it to Propp. Now to Sinisalo, back to Propp. Messier trying to chase him out of the play, and he does. Back comes Anderson. Now to Kent Nilsson. Nilsson to Messier. As Anderson and Nilsson with him. Messier looking to center it, does. Anderson couldn't get a stick on it. Anderson to Messier. Now knocked in front. Here's Anderson, shoots. That one off Marsh and deflected and went up into the crowd here in Edmonton.
Flyers rotating 4 defensemen, Crossman and Daigneault not getting on the ice, and Brown not getting much ice time up front. Propp will get a substantial amount as he's their best offensive player. What a great playoff he's had. He and McCrimmon were partners, or excuse me, teammates way back in '79, and they lost the Memorial Cup championship in the final. And Brian Propp has to be proud, very, very proud of his exceptional play in this year's playoffs.
He's been criticized in the past about not coming up big in the playoffs, but 12 goals, 16 assists, 28 points in 25 games. Propp has ended those stories, or that talk.
Absolutely. Last year, the Flyers were knocked out in the first round by the Rangers in 5 games. Propp had no goals and 2 assists. This year, he's been great all the way through.
They're roaring here in Edmonton. The Oilers lead 2-1. Gretzky on a face-off, wins the draw, but Mellenby controls for Philadelphia. Off the boards to Crossman. Crossman firing it in. That's Huddy hustling back. Craven intercepting. Back of the net to Mellenby. He missed it. Huddy over to get it. And it's poked out to Gretzky. Now to Esa Tikkanen. Tikkanen shoots off the goalpost. Another goal post hit by Edmonton, this time by Tikkanen. And Zezel fires it into center. Here's Mellanby to Marsh. Poking it in behind the net. Huddy gives it to Coffey. Coffey to Gretzky. Bounces into the Flyers zone. If Gretzky touches the puck, he's offside. He does, and it's called back on a two-line offside. Well, that's Tikkanen is the latest Oiler to hit the iron.
He hasn't scored a goal in the last 2 series in this year's playoffs, so this time he's got a quick release and a very quick shot, and it beats Hextall to Hextall's stick side. They're trying to use screens, and Crossman tried to get out of the road of that shot. And you see Hextall way out of the net, but he doesn't play it to the stick side as much, and that shot had him beaten. The Oilers have been in this position lots, leading in the third period. They don't seem to be sitting back, Dan, they're not sitting back at all, but they're not finishing at the other end.
Philadelphia with Sutter, Carson, and Sinisalo. Edmonton with the Messier, Anderson, Nielsen line. 13:31 left in the third period. Here's a chance for McCrimmon, flipping it into the corner. Back goes Craig Munich to Kevin Lowe. To Kent Nielsen. McCrimmon held it in. Now Sinisalo with a drive. Nowhere near the net. And up into the crowd here at the Northlands Coliseum.
One of the streaky scorers for the Flyers, and they need him to go on a streak right now, is Ilka Sinisalo. Signed as a free agent, and you look at this lineup for the Flyers, the free agents that they have in their system. Tim Kerr is a free agent, Ilka Sinisalo a free agent. Hextall now just had a water bottle thrown to him, and he's drinking the water bottle, and that was sent to him from the bench, and I think he had one on top of his own net, but he's already finished the fluid that was in that one, and he's got himself a new one. So he's trying to put the fluids back into a system as much as possible.
The Oilers have fired 34 shots at Ron Hextall. They've scored twice. The Flyers have had 18 on Grant Fuhr. This time the face-off between Messier and Zezel. 2-1 Edmonton leading. 13:20 left in the third period. Here's McCrimmon. Shoots right on. Stick save by Fuhr. Oilers work it to Kushelniski. Now to Anderson. Knocked away, and McCrimmon feeds it to Sinisalo. Back to Brad McCrimmon. To Ilka Sinisalo. Now to Zezel. Over to Carson. Carson has to backtrack a little. Trying to hit Sinisalo on the fly. It goes down the ice. Fuhr takes no chance and comes out and plays it. Here's Anderson to Messier. Leaving it for Coffey. Coffey shot right on. Stick save Hextall. And the Flyers come right back. Here's Brian Propp. Propp lets the shot go off Huddy and then cleared away by Fuhr. Paul Coffey trying to poke it up on the boards. Flyers center. Here's Eklund moving right in. Eklund centered. Nielsen intercepts. Kent Nielsen to Messier. And Mark Messier flips it down into the Philadelphia zone. J.J. Daigneault back to get it. That's McSorley in forechecking. Now McTavish in. Crossman trying to clear it. Smith at the point fires it around the boards. And the Flyers do get it into center ice. Hunter's pass off Tocchet. And Daigneault has to chase back. Daigneault firing it out on right wing to Tocchet. Tocchet into center ice. Off of Eklund's skate and cleared back up by Randy Gregg. Hextall leads one to Poulin. That goes all the way down the ice. Muni back for Edmonton. Cleared it. Samuelson held it in. Shot wide of the target. Here's Poulin. Dave Poulin out in front. Centering pass intended for Marsh, but McSorley intercepts. Here are the Oilers trying to flip it through to Lowe. Hextall dives out, and Lowe had to hurdle over the rookie goaltender. With the score, Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. John Davidson, we were hoping for a great seventh game. We have not been disappointed.
We have seen disciplined hockey from both clubs. Glenn Sader said his team was unnerved and short-tempered, and they had to be more disciplined. Glenn Anderson stayed away from penalties that he took in Game 6. We're seeing both teams just go for it. Simply go for it, and it's been brilliant to watch.
And this Philadelphia team do not know the meaning of the word quit.
They simply don't. You can get them down, you can love them or you can hate them, but you have to respect them. Jari Kurri sends kids home to his native country in Finland for his family to watch games that are important, like the playoffs. He'll be sending this tape home. This is some hockey game.
Now the Flyers make a late change, and the Oilers counter, sending out McTavish along with McSorley and Hunter.
This is a matchup we've seen all throughout this game. Tocchet, Eklund, and Propp destroyed the Oilers here in the last game in Edmonton. They had a great night, something like 11 scoring points between them. It's been McTavish against Eklund in this game. That time they put Tocchet at center ice to get Eklund away from McTavish for the faceoff.
Here's Eklund moving in on the wing, trying to center to McCrimmon. Broken up, now McCrimmon centered it right through the goal crease. And Dave Hunter is able to clear it out for Edmonton. Mark Howe with under 11 minutes left in regulation time to Brad McCrimmon, now to Pelle Eklund. Back to McCrimmon. To Eklund. Over to Howe. Howe stick handling in, trying to feed it through. Backhander by Propp went wide of the net. Now in comes Tocchet. Tocchet comes up with it. Back to Eklund. Shooting, that's just wide of the target. Over goes Lowe. Howe stole it, centered it. Comes in front, Eklund fanned on it. Oilers break up. 2-on-1 break. McTavish with McSorley. McSorley. And breaking it up was McCrimmon with a defensive jam. Here's McSorley. Firing it around, and Propp takes over for Philadelphia. Shot it to the Oiler line. Back comes Paul Coffey. Coffey trying to go around. Howe does. Put it in front, but sliding across was McCrimmon. And then Brad McCrimmon clears at the length of the ice. They're going to rule Edmonton could have played it. There's no icing. Messier back to get it. To Charlie Huddy, who fires it off the boards the other way, and Hextall comes up and feeds it up on left wing to Pula. Over to Samuelson. Now to Sinisalo. Coffey took him out. Samuelson follows up and dumps it in. Huddy for the Oilers. Trying to get it to Nilsson. Cut off, but then Coffey cleared it. Samuelson held it in, a shot wide. And Charlie Huddy back for Edmonton. Intercepted by Poulin, but now Messier breaks up. For Kent Nilsson, Samuelson with the long reach. Again breaking it up. And back comes Shell Samuelson. Fuhr handling the long shot. Here's Smith for Jari Kurri. Check from behind. And Derek Smith gives it to Crossman, now to Dino. Firing it into Sutter. Sutter dumps it in. Fuhr trying to clear it. Held in by Dino. Shot right on. Fuhr made the save. And now Randy Gregg and Sutter almost get into it. In front of the net.
And then Lindsey Carson got involved. Dan, what's happening here, the Flyers believe they're a better conditioned team. Whether they are or not, I don't know. Make that Smith that's in on that situation. But the Oilers are using the boards to get the puck out of the zone. The Flyers are trying to pinch and keep it in. A main part of the rest of this game is going to be just inside that blue line of the Oilers. Can they get it out or not?
8:46 left in regulation time. 2-1 Edmonton. Edmonton in this period out shooting Philadelphia 5-2. In the game, shots 36 for Edmonton, 20 for the Flyers, plus, what, 3 or 4 goal post hits?
4, maybe 5, 4 for sure. But the puck didn't go in. And we're seeing Messier take all the defensive battles, or defensive face-offs, excuse me.
That time against Sutter. Smith clearing it around, and Howe has to chase back for Philadelphia. Howe with a pass to Sutter, who was open, but it hopped over his stick. Now it's Smith, taken out by Randy Gregg, and Messier leads a rush. Mark Messier into Kurri, shoots Hextall out, makes the save, and throws the puck for a faceoff.
Dan, that last play, The puck was shot around the boards, and Smythe was standing there waiting for it. Smythe for the Flyers. But Greg went in and hammered him into the boards, and that sprung the team. See, Greg, he just finished his check. Messier picks up the puck, and he feeds Kurri, and the goaltender played it well as Kurri had to shoot a rolling puck. But that's what I was talking about inside the zone along the boards. Edmonton won that last battle, and they turned it into an offensive play. Kurri doesn't shoot the puck that high. The puck was rolling, and that's why it went up. Randy Gregg hammered Smythe into the boards, and the puck was out of the zone.
8:24 left in regulation time. Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. Messier and Kurri have scored for the Oilers. Craven for Philadelphia. Here's McTavish against Sutter. Sutter coming up with the puck to Brian Propp. Propp got it just out of the zone. Tocchet knocking it down near the Edmonton line, and here's Coffey. To McTavish, into Dave Hunter. Hunter tied up by Tocchet. Cleared over onto the other side. Sutter battling. Coffey held it in. Hunter to McTavish. Shot hit Marsh. And Sutter starts back for Philadelphia. To Brad Marsh, who fires it into the Edmonton zone. Fuhr trying to clear it. Marsh in. But Charlie Huddy comes up with it and gives it to Coffey.
They had Sutter in between Tocchet and Propp for the face-off, and he went to the bench to get Eklund on the ice, and Eklund wasn't ready to get on the ice. Bad line change for the Flyers with Eklund not being alert on the bench.
Here's Propp clearing, but Anderson intercepts. Glenn Anderson trying to go around Marsh. Anderson right out in front. Nielsen there, but Samuelson knocks it away, and the Flyers clear up the center. Here's Kevin Lowe, backhanding it in. Messier and Marsh fight for it. In comes Anderson. Messier to Anderson. Samuelson there to ride him out of the play. Here's Nielsen to Lowe. Now to Anderson. Missed him. Gregg into Glenn Anderson. Now to Kent Nilsson. Nilsson trying to carry out in front. Does. Drops it back. Gregg shot blocked. And Philadelphia starts back. Here comes Sinisalo. He's scored. Propp with a chance. Messier's been injured. He limps towards the Oiler bench and is in some pain. Play going right on. Daniel trying to feed it into Poulin. 6.5 minutes left as the Flyers shoot it in. Coffey there to clear it, and he cleared it over the glass into the crowd. 6:28 left with the score. Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. There you see the time remaining. 6:28. Edmonton with a 1-goal lead.
Mark Messier blocked a shot from Randy Gregg, and he's now limping towards the dressing room area. Now the pressure's on Mike Krushelnyski. He will be taking those defensive draws.
Here's Crossman for Philadelphia. Crossman centered it out in front. Knocked away by Gretzky. Couldn't get it out of the zone, but then it is cleared out. Krushelnyski after it. Now picked up by Kurri. Kurri in with Gretzky. Kurri shot right on. Rebound. Kurri gets it back to the net. Gretzky in control, trying to center. Here's Jari Kurri. Slides it behind the goal. Hextall firing it over. And held in by Gretzky. Into Kurri. Put it right through the goal crease. Coffey at the point. Coffey closing in. Coffey now trying to make a centering pass for Gretzky. In front of the net, Crossman.
Tikkanen
Have each other in a headlock.
And the whistle sounded quite a few seconds ago. It was just very difficult to hear. Krushelnyski will replace Messier as a center, and he will be taking a lot of the defensive draws. A very important turnaround with the injury to Mark Messier, who has not returned to the Oilers bench.
Well, Mark Messier has returned from the Edmonton locker room and has just taken a little skate to try the injured leg. He appears to be okay.
And the latest penalties, you had Crossman and Tocchet, Tikkanen in front of Hextall. Tikkanen trying to get to the net. Crossman saying no. And there's Tikkanen using his stick. Finally, they just tried to drop the gloves. Van Helleman gave them both penalties.
Tikkanen gets one for roughing. Crossman holding. 14-16 the time. Edmonton has... Now we have some debris thrown onto the ice and around the their goal, and that brings some of the rink attendants out.
Very, very seldom see this in Edmonton. A broken bottle, some lunatic sitting in the stands throws it on the ice, and there's going to be a delay here. This will give Messier some time to find out whether or not he can come back and play. He's now skating inside the Edmonton zone, seeing if he can put weight on his foot. Now Hextall has been brilliant here. The shots in the third period have been 8-2 in favor of Edmonton. There's 5:44 remaining on the clock. This man concentrates as much as any goaltender in the league. An hour and 45 minutes before every game, he just clicks in that it's game time, and there's Messier back sitting on the bench. Looks up at the clock, and he's going to try and get himself through this last 5 minutes, 44 seconds. Randy Gregg took the shot. Samuelson's on Messier, and Messier's trying to release himself, and he had his back facing the defenseman taking the shot, and there's no protection on the backside of your leg or your foot, and he got banged, and he's doing his best to try and stay in this thing. Now, Krushelnyski is one of the two extra forwards that has not played other than faceoffs. He may be elevated into Mark Messier's center ice spot if Messier can't go. Now, McClellan does not see ice time in this game. He's been fighting a bad virus over the last 10 days, and Sada decided to sit him here and go with 9 forwards. Well, the
ice has pretty well been cleared up.
A second here, Dan. Some congratulations on behalf of Stanley Cup '87 to some winners around the hockey world. The International Hockey League was won by Salt Lake City. The American Hockey League won by Rochester. Memorial Cup by Medicine Hat. The Centennial Cup Tier 2 by the Richmond Sockeyes. The Allen Cup by Brantford, and the Canadian College Champions, Trois-Rivières. Congratulations to all.
And we'll crown a Stanley Cup champion here in Edmonton tonight. Here are the Oilers, who lead it 2-1, clearing it in. Howe trying to get it out, held in by Lowe, but now Philadelphia do clear it out. And we get a stoppage as the puck is going to be faced off back outside the Philadelphia blue line.
Now the coaches have to have a feel who's got what left in their hockey gasoline tanks. Are they going to be able to get lots of energy? Will Glenn Sather make a decision with Messier or with Krushelnyski? What will his feeling be? He's playing with the lead, and he does not want face-off in his own zone because of that Messier problem.
They've held the Flyers thus far to just 2 shots on goal here in the third period. Here's McTavish, who's played a driving game all night for Edmonton, dumping it in. Samuelson back after it. Sorlian almost stole it, but now it's cleared out by the Flyers. Randy Gregg there to fire it right back in. Hextall off the boards to Marsh, intercepted by McTavish. McTavish tied up by Sutter, who came back from nowhere to break up a dangerous threat. McTavish and Sutter battle in the corner. Hunter coming up with it. That's Samuelson all over him. Now McTavish and Sutter come back into the fray. And it's held there, and we got a stoppage. 4:53 remaining in regulation time.
And it's just work and work and more work from McTavish, from McSorley, from Hunter, and they force another face-off inside that Flyer zone. And this man, McTavish, has given everything he's had in this hockey game. A standing ovation right now for Mark Messier.
Says the crowds in Edmonton are quiet.
They're having a great time here. How can you not? Remember, Bobby Bond played with a broken ankle one time for the Leafs and scored a game-winning goal. Messier, who was in all kinds of pain, I wouldn't imagine, but there's a chance he could have a broken bone in his foot himself.
Messier back out there against Sutter. 4:53 remaining. Messier gets the draw. Anderson back to Huddy, shot right on. Hextall made the stick save, and that comes Tocchet to Propp. Broken up by Messier. Scoops it ahead to Anderson as it went off the linesman, and Samuelson had to hustle back. Cleared into center ice. Messier there to intercept, just flipping it into the Flyers zone. Samuelson cleared it back to center. Nielsen is there. Here's Nielsen. Crosses the red line, dumps it in. Samuelson taken out by Messier. In comes Nielsen to Anderson. Several feet wide with that shot, and it bounces all the way to center.
The Oilers playing with a lead, not sitting back in this hockey game. They're playing it inside the Flyers zone.
Here's a pass to Gretzky. He dumps it in. Marsh back to get it. Marsh to Samuelson. 4 minutes left in regulation time. Gregg breaks the play up at center and flipped it back in. Now Marsh. The Propp back to Marsh. Broken up by Gretzky. Edmonton checking the Flyers before they can get out of their own zone at this point. Here's Kurri holding it in. Peter Zezel goes back for Philadelphia. Over to Craven. Gregg held it in. Center Gretzky deflected off the side of the net and then smothered by Hextall.
Gretzky always likes to wait behind the net. This time he sneaks in front and deflected it through the legs of Hextall just outside of the post. Randy Gregg keeps it in. Gretzky stays way back behind everybody. And there's a little deflection that nearly went into the net for the Edmonton Oilers. You know Gretzky will not leave the zone until he's absolutely sure the puck is out. And that time it nearly worked.
3:34 left in regulation time. Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. Here's McTavish against Sutter on a faceoff. Sutter wins the draw. Gets away from Hunter and was knocked down, but Howe goes back to get it. Howe trying to beat it out. Into center ice to McCrimmon. Down McMellenby. Back to McCrimmon. Pass too far for him. In comes Pooler. He's tied up. Now Sutter trying to kick it free on the boards. It's McTavish battling with Sutter. In comes Pooler. Now in comes Gregg. And Dave Hunter able to clear the zone for Edmonton. It's Sorley after it. Hextall away out of the net to clear it. And Howe controls. 2:55 left in regulation time. Howe, long pass to Smith, missed him. Coffey knocks it down. Now Craven tied up by Hunter. Here comes Messier. Around Howe, cutting in. Shot it wide as he went to his backhand. Howe for the Flyers starts back. What a hockey game here in Edmonton. Huddy is there to knock it away for the Oilers. Now Glenn Anderson with Messier. Anderson shoots. He scores!
Put the Oilers in the lead by 2. Anderson just does it himself through the legs of Hextall that deflected off the Flyer defenseman Crossman. Crossman's stick ticks that puck and it redirects through the legs of Ron Hextall, and the Oilers get a 2-goal lead, and there's jubilation in this building. Hextall had good position on the shot, and he prepares himself, and it just went right through the legs. And they're still up, and they're still loud here in Edmonton.
Anderson gets the goal, his 14th of the playoffs. 3-1 Edmonton. Huddy gets an assist, 17:36 to time. Philadelphia trying to mount some offense, but Jari Kurri is there to clear it out.
Remember, Anderson was in the penalty box for Game 6 when they scored the winning goal. He's come back in brilliant fashion in this game.
Here's Brad Marsh, under 2 minutes remaining. Flyers trail by 2 as Tocchet flips it to Propp. Into Eklund trying to break through. Broken up by Gregg. Now Propp tied up. And the Oilers. Krushelnyski giving it to Gretzky. Gretzky to Krushelnyski. Cutting right in, shoots off the skate of Marsh. Randy Gregg was there, but Propp cleared it away. 1:30 left. Here's Coffey to Gretzky. And Gretzky just dumps it in. Oilers with a 2-goal lead. A little more breathing room since the goal by Anderson. Now Sinisalo as the Flyers feed it ahead to Mellanby, but Coffey is there to break it up. Now McSorley right back the other way for the Oilers. Leaves it for Gretzky. Gretzky to Huddy. Shot, Hextall kicks that up. 1 minute left in regulation time. Now clear. Huddy knocks it down at center. And here's Dave Hunter into Gretzky. Pace check. Poulin trying to work it free. Stealing it was Gretzky. 45 seconds left. Hextall trying to get to the bench, but the Flyers can't get it out of their zone. Lowe fires it in. And that's offside at the Flyer line with 39 seconds left.
The Oilers have played great defense in the playoffs. The Flyers have only two shots on goal in this third period.
That is playing some defense.
And they were led defensively by the line of McSorley, Hunter, and McTavish. They've been brilliant in a defensive role for the Oilers. There's now a timeout been called by the Flyers, and they're not going to die. You're going to see an effort yet from Philadelphia.
What about this guy, the rookie Ron Hextall?
Shots are 43-20. I don't know who's going to win the Conn Smythe, but he'd get my vote. Just, if you take any team that was in the playoffs and any one man and single him out as to why they got as far as they did, you have to point to that man right there. And Walter Gretzky enjoying the moment.
Flyers have called a timeout. There's been a lot of speculation about Mike Keenan and his future in Philadelphia. I talked to him before the game. He said, I don't know where that's coming from. I'm going to be back. I have 2 years left in a contract.
I'll tell you something. At the start of the playoffs, there was some unrest in Philadelphia between himself and the players, and that has been laid to rest as they have grown together, and the effort, the maturity that team has displayed throughout the playoffs has been just super. Now, they go with Sutter, Craven, and Propp, along with Howe and McCrimmon. They're going to try and get the puck deep. Time is not on their side.
39 seconds left as Edmonton controls. They lead 3-1, and Kent Nielsen gives it to Kevin Lowe. He dumps it in to McCrimmon with 28 seconds left. Back to get it. Off the boards, the Flyers couldn't get across center. Gregg shooting it back in. Hextall out of the net. Fires it up to Propp. Just 16 seconds left, and Hextall can't get to the bench. Here's Lowe clearing one. McCrimmon intercepted. McCrimmon with 8 seconds left to Craven. Hextall still on there. Fires it up to Howe with 3 seconds left. The Oilers have won the Stanley Cup. Deservedly so, has won the Conn Smythe Trophy.
As soon as the final buzzer went, Ron Hextall dropped to his knees, and he realized then and only then that they were out of the running for the Stanley Cup. But he is being mobbed by his teammates and a tired hockey club. The Edmonton Oilers played a brilliant hockey game, and they got better and better as the game went along. And then it was just a brilliant game. It was just great plays, great goaltending. A game where you didn't see cheap stuff beside, just a well-played super game.
A classic, and the Oilers have won club's history. And as we've mentioned, Hextall is the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, becoming only the 4th player from a losing team to win that award. He joins Roger Crozier, Glenn Hall, and Reggie Leach, who have been on losing teams. There's Gretzky and the great goaltender Hextall. Presentation as soon as these handshakes are exchanged. What a series, JD.
You saw it all. You saw gutsy performances by players refusing to say it's over. And you saw a man that played the only way he knew how to play, and I'm talking about Hextall. You gave it everything. You could look at his face and you swear you see tears coming down, and you look at the Edmonton Oilers, and they listen to their coaching staff this year in the playoffs. They executed a game plan that was not built around individual stars. It was built around a team concept, and they provided entertainment in this series that has been unmatched for a number of years.
First 7-game series since 1971. You saw it here on NHL 87 in a 3-1 Edmonton victory as they roll out the red carpet, and we're only moments away from the presentation of the Stanley Cup here at the Northlands Coliseum. The Oilers, after bowing out to Calgary in the playoffs a year ago, bounced back, and they've won the Stanley Cup for the 3rd time in the last 4 years.
They had efforts from all individual players in this hockey game, and here it comes, what it's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the National Hockey League, Mr. John Ziegler, will now present the Stanley Cup to the captain of the Stanley Cup champions, Wayne Gretzky.
He wants to make sure all the cameras are in place for the presentation. He wants this to be a memorable moment.
It's absolute mob scene down there.
Number 99 in the Stanley Cup, which has been won by the Edmonton Oilers.
For Steve Smith to be part of the team to carry the puck around, the Stanley Cup around. Last year, he put the puck in his own net, and that was part of his team losing that playoff round to the Calgary Flames. And you see the jubilation and the good feelings the Oilers are displaying here. Cup off to his family. His mom and dad sit right in that corner, and he's very, very close to his family. And that had to be a good feeling for the entire Messier clan. Paul Coffey, who fought injuries all throughout the season. They acquired Ruotsalainen, and Coffey said, should I go up the ice as much? Wayne Gretzky, who has played in every single Edmonton Oilers playoff game ever played, is a large part of this situation. The feeling is there, a 7-game series, Dan.
There you see the Oiler locker room. The Oilers have told us we can go into their locker room, but they'd like 5 minutes of celebration on their own before we enter the locker room. And we will do that, but eventually we'll visit the locker room of the Stanley Cup champion Oilers. By the way, Jari Kurri gets the winning goal here tonight. He ties an NHL record 5 game-winning goals in one playoff year, sent first by Mike Bossy in 1983.
Former Leaf Greg Nudie, his first time in the finals, and he comes out a winner, a free agent to the Oilers. He knew that they had a chance in the Cup, and he and Kevin Lowe teamed up as a pair all year long, and there it is.
But the Flyers sure made them sweat, John Davidson, to win their 3rd Stanley Cup. They chased them to the 7th game after at one time being down 3 games to 1.
As I said earlier, you can love the Flyers, you can hate the Flyers, whatever you want. Just make sure you respect them because they're a great hockey club, and they just showed that, just the true grit of a great team.
Kevin Lowe now with the Stanley Cup raised high. And the Oilers are mainly leaving the ice now. The Edmonton Oilers have won the Stanley Cup. They win Game 7, 3-1. Marty McSorley and his dad, and there's some tears down there. When we return to Edmonton, the Carling O'Keefe Game Star.